right, there we go. All right, I am super excited for today because there are so many people. I remember over the last decade massaging countless people and asking about hobbies and different things like that. And like, you need to get a hobby that you can sit down and relax and enjoy, right? This is very essential for self-care. We can't just rely, like, devices are no good for us. And so many of my clients had no hobbies. They didn't know what to do with themselves. And I'm just like, holy man, like, you got to figure it out. So I know, like, my mom loves puzzles and stuff, but I think this is so great because we did, for everyone watching or listening, in our pre-talk here before, we had talked about the different things that are crocheting, like I thought was knitting, but are crocheting, like those awesome dishcloths. So first of all, you can actually be useful for yourself and creating these amazing dishcloths. And if you haven't seen my video on dishcloths, I did make a YouTube video about it. I will never buy store-bought dish
Oh God,
anything.
no.
Oh yeah,
They get moldy really quickly.
well, and they fall apart. And honest to God, they just don't clean as well. Like, they don't hold up.
No.
So it is, yeah, it's really, I'm excited because I think this is one hobby. You have said it is relaxing. Once you get used to it and stuff, it is relaxing. And what you told me last time, which I think is super fascinating, Afghans are not very difficult to make.
If you want to make a nondescript one.
Yes. But it's funny because even the Afghan my mom had bought me for Christmas a couple years back, I mean, it's beautiful. It's not super fancy by any means, but she must have paid, and it's not very big. Like, it's not, it wouldn't cover your bed or anything. And she must have spent like $150 on it. Like, these things are
Easily.
expensive. Exactly,
Yes.
easily. So this can be a hobby that not only can be, gifts for other people, but you could make money one day. Like, so I think it's, yeah, very
But
great
what
hobby.
I find is that people, they see something they like and they go and investigate the cost of the yarn. And then when you tell them what it's going to cost me to make it, they get testy. Like, how do you dare charge for this? I said, well, you sit down and make it and see how long it takes you to make it.
Yes.
Or ask Aunt Martha to make it for just the cost of the yarn, and Aunt Martha will tell you to forget
Yes.
it.
Well, and that's it, because I do know when my mom had mine made, it took months. Like, she kind of was telling me about the process of it, and the lady, she works with her, and she is a travel agent, so there's a little flexibility in her schedule, but it took her months to make. And
I'm sure. And then people that do it as a hobby don't necessarily know the professional strategies to have it look right and to have it finish right so it doesn't fall apart. Tying in different colors of yarn is not an easy thing to do, and that's usually where your Afghan will start to disintegrate or fall apart because the different colors are detached and they haven't woven in the ends properly, and so
that makes sense.
you wind up with something that just isn't nice anymore. I mean, I don't know if you can see it behind me.
Yes.
Let me pull this around a little bit. I'm going to stand up a little bit more.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
is one that I made like 15 years ago. It's been washed a couple times, but I keep it on the back of my chair because, especially in the winter, it gets cold in here when you're just sitting. So I like to turn it around and put it on my lap or whatever. But it's quite large because I didn't know what I was doing back then as far as using this color concept. And I followed a pattern that used a different kind of yarn that would have made the Afghan turn out a lot smaller, more like a shawl. And so
isn't that interesting?
it used baby yarn instead of regular yarn.
Okay, so
And
this is, yeah, the
there's a
perfect
difference.
example of how little people like me know.
Yes.
I would have never thought to me, a pattern is a pattern. Buy some yarn.
Well, the problem with the initial problem with a pattern is that I have found that most of the reliable pattern writers use the yarn. What they show in the picture is the yarn that they use to make the item, and it's not always available in the United States, which drives up your cost and delay in starting it because it's coming from another country. Plus, I have found that even pattern makers in China and Russia, I can't get them because the United States has put a clamp on them, which is fine by me. But
That's interesting.
a $3 pattern, come on, get serious.
Well, and I will say, just a side note, just my personal belief, so people can hate me or love me for it, but like in Canada, one of my regular massage clients was from Russia. Her mother still lives in Russia. She's a fantastic person. She's fully Canadian. She loves Canada. She's like a full on loves Canada citizen. And I think like it's just interesting how we choose to have these bans on silly things like patterns when really like you're gonna have a Bubba down the street who just doesn't get a pattern from home. Like in my opinion, silly, but it is what it is. So
Well, and then in making patterns that I like, the repeat patterns, I have found alternative yarns that work better than what's suggested. And I have found techniques that I use in making the pattern that are different from what is suggested.
okay, so this is side note of why it's important to not just YouTube it, but to actually have someone like you help us newbies along the way.
Right. For example, there are two ways to do a single crochet, the United States way and the UK way. I think we talked about that.
We
The
did, and
UK way makes your stitch closer together and without little holes in it that are visible if you with the stuffing put in. Like I'll give you an example. This is a critter I made a while ago. I think I showed you this the other day.
yes,
This is an eyeglass holder. You set it on your desk, and if I put my glasses down on my desk, I will not find them. So I have one of these on my desk, and I prop my glasses on it, and then I know where they are.
yes.
So my glasses are one of three places: on my bedside table, on my desk if I can find my desk, or on my workstation in the living room where I do most of my crocheting. But the point I was going to make about this is the stitches are very close together and you can't see the stuffing come out, which is really important if you're going to be using a dark colored yarn because
Ah,
the fiber fill is white
yes.
and it'll peek through or pull through if the stitches aren't done really tightly. And another trick is to use a smaller crochet hook than what is suggested on the pattern.
Ah, well, and
I
I just
don't
want
do
to,
I
sorry, go
don't do
ahead.
that real often. I mean, I'll start a pattern the way it says, but I usually wind up frogging it, which is a crochet term. Or frogging means you know what a frog does. He goes rip it, rip it, rip it while you're
Yeah,
ripping it out. So I'll
which is
usually
kind of
start.
nice to know that even a professional like you can still fudge it up so it makes us feel better about
Oh yes,
ourselves.
oh yes. But one thing you need to know about ripping something out, yarn has a memory,
Really
and you don't want to rip it out more than twice because its
interesting.
elasticity isn't there anymore.
Ah, okay, okay.
You've essentially ruined that section of yarn if you've ripped it out more than twice.
Yep.
Um,
I'm gonna put that similar to I love like anyway, decorating Christmas gifts with the ribbon. When you pull the ribbon, you can't just unpull it. You pulled it for life.
yes, yes.
Okay, that's good to know. And I just actually want to say a little side note with that little eyeglass holder. I used to sell Scentsy. So
Used to sell what? Oh,
Scentsy
Scentsy.
products. Yeah, and they came out with these stuffies that you can put scents into. Now, I don't always agree with artificial scents. I'm a big essential oil person myself. Like a lot of my burners, I just put oils in. But you could totally have make one of those little stuffies with a little gap in the back, and you can put scents in, like a lavender scent for your kids or your babies to get to sleep or to soothe them or something.
Uh,
Just for like, just thinking of ways if parents are like, or especially moms are like, well, what would I do with crochet? Like, what's the point? I feel like there's so many points, and that
mhm.
would be right. So many things we can do with it.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned for babies, you would want to make sure that that critter stays away from the baby because of the stuff that you're putting inside to make the fragrance. If the baby gets a hold of it, it would not be healthy for them.
Oh, I'm talking about the fragrance being pure essential oils, so that would be harmless.
Yeah. Then the other thing that I do is when I make critters, I always ask my customer, is the baby under age 3? Because there's a couple of different ways to make the eyes.
Oh,
And on this one, the eye is embroidered on. But you could have, let's see if I don't have one. Let me see if I've got one on my back shelf here. Yeah, I do. Now this is a little snowman that I'll put out this
oh,
winter. But if you can
yes,
see the eyes, they're like little beads or little buttons.
yep.
You
Something
don't
a
want to,
little, they would chew
not
those
for
right
babies
off.
under age 3 because babies can get them out.
Yep.
And then I
That,
also do other things too because the little pocket is embroidered on. Let me see, can you see that? And
yeah.
the little tie, and then she has a little sweater on or a little skirt on. And sometimes the pattern will call for putting a little button on the back so you can dress I don't use buttons for anything, buttons um, uh, or eyes like this for babies under age 3. I work out something different for them with embroidery. So you have to kind of learn 2 different techniques when you're crocheting,
Okay.
embroidery and using hardscapes.
You know what? And that is actually an interesting side note is I was messaging someone on Facebook who does embroidery, and little did I know, this is how little I truly know. These beautiful Christmas tablecloths I spend $100 or more on, they're all embroidered. I could have made that myself. Like, yeah, the things we don't know.
Whether you can do machine embroidery.
Like on a
Uh,
sewing
uh,
machine?
yeah, a sewing machine that's set up for embroidery. It's a very expensive machine, but
Okay.
if you see T-shirts and sometimes like that, they'll say whatever the decoration is on the front is machine embroidered. They have a special
Ah,
machine that you put it, you create a template to make what you want, and it
it
sews
just
it
does it.
on.
Ah, oh, well, there you go. Isn't that that's very
And
interesting.
those machines are made in England, I think, or Germany. I'm not sure which. My sister um, designs clothes and that, and she has a very expensive sewing machine that she bought years ago from Germany. I forget what the brand is, but it does amazing stuff. And she's, like I said, she's had it forever. She used to
Oh,
work
no.
in the garment industry, and she worked for Britannia and Nike and Seattle Sports Apparel and a few others, but
Oh,
decided
wow.
that the industry was too male dominated, and so she left, and now she's retired and takes care of Boston Terriers.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. So we
Oh,
got a little off topic, which is I do that a lot, so that's all right. So back to crocheting, I guess before we get into all the different ways that you can help people like us, what would be I guess, like selling points of why people should take up crocheting and how it is relaxing and why it's a great hobby to have.
Well, one of the things that I tell older women is it will help with arthritis pain. The more you use your hands, the less pain
That
you
is
will
true.
have.
That is
My
true.
doctor told me use them or lose them.
Ha!
You use your hands or you're going to wind up crippled. I
Yep.
mean, I do have arthritis in this knuckle,
Mhm.
but it's there because it isn't painful because I crochet with this hand. I'm right-handed. So I crochet with this hand and then I hold my thread here, and so the arthritis pain is a little bit more pronounced in this hand because it's a constant position rather than
Lots of
with this
movement.
one where you're moving things around. But it's also relaxing because you have to pay attention to what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with something that looks like what you didn't start out to have it look like.
I
Um,
believe that. Yep.
yeah. So, and it gets relaxing because it occupies your brain. Now, math comes into it. Um, yeah, math comes into crochet.
Okay.
Um, when I get a pattern, I read through it before I start it, and sometimes I'll read a pattern and the line of stitches that they're talking about. You kind of add up how many single crochets, how many double crochets, how many stitches go into one stitch, and how many does it wind up on that row. And
Okay.
sometimes a designer will write it up and tell you that it's supposed to end with 76 stitches,
And it's
and it
not.
doesn't
Okay. I just
because
want to interject
because
just
they've
for a minute.
left a section of description out, or they don't know how to add.
And it's probably not knowing how to add, to be honest, because
Let me
I've
turn
come
this off.
across
I don't know how to
in
do that.
okay, I've come across interesting mistakes
Oh,
myself. But just in case someone is watching this and they think, oh my God, this is sounding complicated, it's all right. She can help teach us everything. She's very affordable. We'll get to that later, but it is simple once it gets explained. So don't be put off by what we're saying now for viewers
right,
out there. Yes.
right.
Okay.
But there are basically 4 basic stitches that if you do a row of one stitch, it looks one way. But if you change up the stitches so that you have stitch number one, and then you go to stitch number two, and so it what makes a pattern with how you do things. Like I have this little hat that I'm still waiting for the pom poms. So this part of the band that goes over your head is a stretchy stitch so
Ah,
that it
yeah.
goes around your. I'm going to put this on, but it's going to look like because it doesn't have the beanie for it yet. I'm waiting for it to. I put faux fur beanies, puffs on the top, but you see that this stretches over my forehead or down on my ears. This is like a lady size small. Um, but if you can see in this red here, that
Mhm.
the triangle is made up of 3 different types of stitch
Really?
into one base stitch on the next row down. So that
Okay.
makes this kind of interesting pattern of the stitches. It's like ziggy zag. And
So
so you have to pay attention when you're crocheting, and that's what's relaxing about it, is making your mind work.
yes, and I will say, because that's what I tell all my clients, one of the key things, especially to just literally getting tasks done, actually finishing them with quality, over like this, just being mindless and trying to get 10 things done at one time, is to focus. So I'm going to also point out to everyone watching that this sounds like an excellent practice technique to actually focus your mind on one thing, because a lot of us have issue with that. I think this,
A lot of
okay.
us do too much multitasking in their brain.
Oh, it is the bane. So of all my overwhelm, stress, anxiety that I deal with, the bane of the existence is literally trying to multitask because we are so stressed, we cannot do it. And so I literally teach everyone one thing at a time, like stop multitasking. So I love this because this can not only be your relaxing self-care, but it's also homework to train your mind to be able to focus. Oh, I love this. So, and I just want to clarify because to me, not knowing anything about this, 3 stitches in one almost gives me a bit of anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, that seems really hard. Once you know what you're doing, is that actually a difficult thing or it's just like no big deal?
Once you get going on it, it just
It's
becomes,
another,
you can almost do, you can't really do it like knitting where you can knit without looking at it. You have to look at what you're doing. And if you put your hook in the wrong spot, it will make a difference when you get to the end of the row, and that's where you have to pull it out and go back and redo it.
okay.
And
So,
your stitch count is important in a row
okay.
or in a round. If you're working in the round, your stitch count is important. And that's where
It,
you learn how to read a pattern.
and then I'm guessing basically you have to have a pattern to follow.
Or if you get experienced enough, you can make up your own.
Oh,
I mean,
that'd be
I've done
fun.
that. I've started the the part that I showed you, that the band that goes around, that's a basic. That's a basic in making a hat. But you can make different stitches on the top that makes the top of your hat look different. Or I could stop here and have it just as an ear warmer.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Um,
So you
I
do
guess,
have to you do have to start with a pattern if you're a novice.
yes. Yeah.
Learning
Okay.
how to write a pattern is a whole another conundrum.
I definitely believe that. So going from like knowing absolutely nothing, we're literally buying material. How long do you think it takes someone to actually become comfortable with the stitches?
Well, the way I start out with it is, in my first session, I will teach them show them how to hold the hook, how to hold the yarn, and we will work on the first maybe 3 stitches for it, and that'll take about an hour to get them comfortable with working on things. Plus, I kind of coach them into what kind of pattern to select for what they have in mind of what they're doing.
Mhm.
Um, there's all different kinds of things, and then I kind of point them in the direction of where to find the pattern. Um, you can go to Etsy or um, eBay. There's a couple of other providers that I like, um, and patterns aren't cheap. They're $3, $4, $5.
Oh,
But
that's
you
not too bad
reuse and
though.
reuse and reuse them, and I keep my patterns. I keep my patterns on my computer rather than printing them out.
Well, and I was just thinking you could probably also have a nice like crochet circle where you can exchange patterns too. No?
No, no. If I buy a pattern, I cannot share it with somebody. It's against the copyright.
Really?
Right. Now,
Okay.
if I write a pattern, it's my option to sell the pattern design or to share it with others. But I can't go to one of my pattern places and buy the pattern and then share it with someone. That's against copyright.
Oh, I would have never.
And they will really slam you hard on that one.
They will, hey. I would see, I guess again, not being in the crochet world yet, I think of patterns like recipes and you just copy it down and hand it out to all your friends and say, this is delicious, make it.
Yes, absolutely. But you can't do that in the pattern world. Whether
Isn't
it's
that
crochet, embroidered, what have
knitting?
you. If you buy a pattern online, you cannot share it with someone.
Okay, noted. That is very good to know.
Now,
Okay.
there are free patterns. Even with free patterns out there, you cannot share them with someone. You can point them in the direction to the link and they can download it themselves. Same with the paid pattern. But I can't say, here's the pattern I used to make this item and email it to you. I can't do that.
Isn't that
Um,
funny, hey?
those they could close down my Facebook page. Interestingly
Okay.
enough, about copyright is Disney just relinquished their copyright on the Winnie the Pooh characters. The copyright ran out, and
Oh,
up until about a year ago, I could I could make the item, but I couldn't show it or sell it to anybody. And what was
oh,
stupid about it is Disney made a book of crochet of all the Pooh characters. You could
that you
buy the
couldn't.
you could buy the book, the pattern book, but you couldn't make the item. And I'm thinking,
Huh.
what? Well, I did make Winnie the Pooh. He was cute, but he was monstrously big. He turned out to be about 2.5 feet tall. And there were so many written mistakes in the pattern that the face was just horribly distorted. And I got together with a gal up north from here, and she had bought the pattern also. And we sat down and tried to figure out what they were talking about. Neither one of us, and both of us have been in the industry for years, neither one of us could figure out the pattern.
Oh, jeez.
The sections where you got the two eyes were totally different. And
No.
so when you finished the pattern, one eye was smaller and higher up than the other one. It was horrible.
Okay, so I guess that's also a good lesson in to always check the pattern first. Like give it a good look over, hey?
You go to a known pattern designer.
Okay.
I have a few pattern designers that I really like, and I'm willing to share how to get to their patterns online, but I can't say
Can't
here's
share
this
the
pattern.
that's
Um,
fair. That is fair.
so
Well,
when
especially,
I work with somebody that's new,
yeah.
we decide on what I will get them through the first section of how they're going to do what they're making. Um, I don't like to start them with something as elaborate as a multi-stitch Afghan. Um, you see people wanting to start by making granny squares. That's not easy. That's not
Okay, and
something you want to give a new person.
what's a granny square?
Yeah. Well, that's you see it in a square, and the center of it is one color and one stitch, and then the next row is a different color and a different stitch around the square, and you get to be a piece about this big, and then you sew them all together. Um,
Oh, that sounds, yeah, that does not sound easy.
um, Granny squares in over time have gotten kind of trite. You see them everywhere in different shapes and sizes, and
Yeah.
I just don't like them. But what we want to do is we want to start out with something simple, like dishcloths or scrubbies
Or
or hot pads.
yeah, I was just thinking too, my boyfriend, we have it saved somewhere in this house. He had a wee little tiny baby Afghan, just like literally the same stitch, the same, it's all yellow and it just has little fringes on the end. But it's like, I don't know, 2 feet by 3 feet. Like it's the teeniest little,
Yeah,
cutest
well,
little
it's
thing.
like a receiving blanket.
Ah, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that again, that
It
would be
must
useful. People are
it
having
must
babies all the time.
it must be thundering because somebody is sitting here going,
Yep.
"You're fine."
They're so funny. Hey, yeah, I always get whenever something happens, I have a doodle, and I always get the bum thrust into me. And I'm like, oh, something's happening.
Yeah. He usually wants lap time when he gets scared.
Oh,
So
well,
we'll see.
feel free.
Right now
Yeah,
he's
feel
under my
free.
chair.
I think
So
anyone who follows me probably loves dogs because I love dogs.
so that type of Afghan would be perfect because the Afghan is done in one stitch and then the border is maybe made with a different type of stitch. And those are simple to make.
Perfect.
Um a headband would be something that band is really easy to make.
Okay, which is perfect because I mean, most of us, I'm going to say people that follow me, most of us are North American, Canadian or American, and boy, most of us get winter. So those are always useful. And especially even for summer, I wonder, you could probably make, correct me if I'm wrong, something just to even like hold the hair back, but have
Yeah.
the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Ideas. I see where I can take this.
Yes, there's all kinds of ideas for a beginner, but so I try to guide the person into. We talk about what's your goal, what would you like to make, and let's find a pattern that's easy to do
Mhm.
related to that. And then what I do is I will get them started on that, and if they run into problems, they can contact me. Like, what does this mean, and how do I do it? And um, we also talk about brands of yarn. I think you and I talked about that a little bit
We
before.
did. And
Where
that's,
you,
I just want to tell all the viewers that are listening to this and thinking of crocheting and thinking of hiring you. I was blown away when we talked for just the first 10 minutes. My brain was melting already with information. So I will say, guys, if you do hire her, the bang for your buck is definitely going to be there. So do not be concerned about that.
yes. One of my favorite yarns is a product called Karen's Simply Soft. That that eyeglass holder is made with the Karen's Simply Soft, and I just finished a hat. The hat that I showed you
Yes.
was made with this,
Oh,
and
isn't that neat?
it's um it's called by the manufacturer. It's called Sparkle, and you see all the little colors of red in there,
Yes,
and this is
I
how
love
it
that.
turned out in the hat, kind of
Ah,
sparkly. And
yep.
then I matched it up with with another brand of the same yarn. And when you're making a garment, you want to, or even an Afghan, you want to stay with the same brand of yarn, because different brands have different consistency, and they can make or break the size of your output.
I
Um,
wouldn't have thought of that either. So that is
and
also
even
very good to
within
know.
Yeah, and even within the same brand, you can come up with different textures of yarn. How they're twisted. I don't know if you can be able to see that.
Oh, yeah, it's like a rope.
Yes, how it's twisted together makes a difference. And then
Oh my goodness.
there's a very inexpensive brand of yarn that's very popular with beginners that I really don't recommend, because it can be very disappointing if they choose to make a project that has more than one color in it. And the reason being, and if you go to the yarn store and check it out, what I'm telling you, you'll see the difference. If you feel the white in that brand of yarn and then go feel the black, there's definitely a difference in consistency. The black is very rough and tight feeling, and the white is very soft and fluffy. And as
Wow.
you go through the color chart, the density or the feel of the yarn changes. So you don't want to you don't want to go with cheap yarn.
Yeah,
Karen
okay.
Simply Soft is kind of a mid-range. I make baby things with this, and hats and mittens and all kinds of things with it. Um, I even have a line of adult only crochet toys that I show them on my Facebook page once in a while, and I do share them with individuals because they're so doggone funny. Um, I initially made them because somebody requested them for a Christmas party gag gift
Nice.
thing that produced. Do you know that grown men giggle? That's what
No.
that's what this did. It wound up with 8 men in the room that were all giggling because of the different gift that they got. But
Um,
for our
oh,
interview, we won't talk about it any further than that. But it was very funny. And my friend sent me a copy of the video that I don't show to anybody, but even Grandpa was giggling.
oh my goodness. Well, that just goes to show endless possibilities for crochet.
Yes, endless possibilities. And then there's also things that I make for the gals. My daughter was going to, I forget where she was going, so I made her this bra thing that she wore to the swimming pool. and or out for the sun. It wouldn't have gone in the swimming pool. It would all stretched out, but it was fun and it was cute, and she won't wear it in public again.
Well, I do have to ask, speaking of the clothes, how well do crocheted items wash?
Depending upon what it is.
Because I know my dishcloths, they get washed a ton and they come out great. But
Yes,
if you're making like the toque or something, how about those sorts of things?
this brand you can put in the washing machine. However, depending upon what it is, you may need to flat dry it.
And that's fair. I kind of expect anything like you buy a knitted wool, whatever, you're flat drying anyways. But just, and even I think almost everyone's washer nowadays has a gentle cycle. So as long as you keep it gentle, treat it nicely, it can still wash fairly well.
Um, I wouldn't put the critters in the washing machine. Those can be
Nope.
surface washed. The baby
Okay.
spits up on it or something, you can surface wash it, but I wouldn't suggest putting it in the washer.
Probably more because of the stuffing,
The
right?
fiber fill, yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
Um, I try not to use um I try not to use yarns that are animal made. Have animal fibers in them. I don't use wool or
Okay. Right.
because people can be allergic to it.
Yes.
I am. And so I read labels carefully to make sure there's no wool in it because otherwise while I'm working on it, my hands get rough and itchy and I wind up putting Caladril on my hands and then you can't touch your fabrics until it dries. But I don't use any wool and babies can be sensitive to wool. It's very soft and very alpaca
Yes.
you got to watch for that. That's an animal fiber that you might want to stay away from.
And because there's I can't remember what garment, but alpaca, some sort of sweater or something was very popular for a while. I don't remember what that was, but well, and it's funny too, because I think like my Oma used to do everything. She had everything was wool. She might have used cotton, but I remember that little spinny thing
The
to
spinning
separate,
wheel.
yeah,
Mhm.
separate the wool fibers. And oh my goodness, like, but yeah, that's also a very good point because again, to not just look at the wool, look at the brand, uh, feel the texture and stuff, but literally look at the ingredients because
Mhm.
I have to assume we talked about this before, but there's a ton of synthetic, probably different types of synthetic, correct?
Yes. Now, you and I talked about making dishcloths,
Yes,
and I said that you want to make sure that they are 100% cotton.
yes.
There are some brands out there saying they are cotton, but if you read the the label, they might be 90% cotton and 10% acrylic. Don't, because acrylic does not like heat, so you don't want to use that in the kitchen.
Right. And
Right.
yeah, which literally like, yeah,
And you don't want to bleach. You don't want to bleach it either.
yeah.
Now I use I'm allergic to chlorine, so I use a non-chlorine bleach on
Oh, I
my
just
my
vinegar.
dishcloths.
I vinegar the heck out of everything. That's my cup of tea. White vinegar.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right fabric for what you're trying to do, and take into consideration who is the item being made for.
Well, I'll say just generically then, if someone wants to just play it safe, can you ever go wrong with 100% cotton?
No, you can that'll work every time. You can even make
Perfect.
baby thing. I can even make the critters with 100% cotton. They turn out differently because the let's see if I have anything here. Yeah, I have a dishcloth here, and this is made with this is made with a double crochet 30
Now,
30 stitches by 16 rows.
okay, would that be
So
an American stitch because it's got
this one is an American stitch and it's also a UK stitch. Where it gets into, let's see. where it gets into UK stitch is like this is a or a coffee cozy
Mhm.
or a miniature hot pad. Where it gets where you might want to use a UK stitch is this one right here, which is a single crochet, and that might be made differently in a US stitch as opposed to a UK stitch if you want this stitch tighter. But I just did it the American version all the way around, which is a series of double crochet stitches in the round and then a shell stitch around the edge to make it look cute. And then you
Okay,
tie in your colors so that you don't everything is woven in so you don't see where your beginning stitches are, and it's all made so that it's not going to fall apart when you put it in the washing machine.
which is, yeah, very important.
And like I said, these can be you can put them in with hot water and bleach if you use bleach, but you have to keep in mind that your colors will fade.
Yeah.
But I have dishcloths in my kitchen that I've had for years, and they starting to some of them are starting to look worn, but like I've had them 15 years, and so it's time to get some new ones.
Well, and
Pot
that's it.
holders.
Yes, there's just, it's almost like anything kitchen. And I said it before in another video, but the crochet dishcloths, and I left it at the sink, of course, but I have a scrubby like in place of the SOS pad, and it hands down beats an SOS pad any day of the week. I think it's just like a tighter stitch to make it more aggressive, but it these things are the best things I've ever cleaned with. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
are, right? Like you will never go back to store bought. Once you have a crochet washcloth, that's
And
it.
what's nice about these is you don't have to keep them in the kitchen. They can be used in the shower
Yeah.
or
Well, and
for baby.
what I always do is at the end of the week when I want to switch up my dishcloth, I take it and I use it to clean the bathroom, and then I throw it in the wash. Yep, it's you know, this is how I'm going to start with the dishcloths because I love them and I think they're amazing, but I will recommend to everybody, like, start making dishcloths. First of all, you're going to relax, you're going to increase your focus, and you're never going to have to buy another dishcloth in your life. They make great gifts. Like 3 years in a row, I asked my mom for these dishcloths for Christmas because I love them so much. So I feel like, again, you're even handcrafting your own gifts to other people. Like,
Oh, and
yeah,
people love getting handcrafted. It
yeah,
shows that you really care that you're getting them something that was handmade, and it'll be treasured for a long time. Um, I'm doing a back to school push on my Facebook page, and I have several things there. One of the things that I have is like a set of kitchen stuff for a college bound kid. Um, a,
that's a
a, a
great idea.
microwave, yeah, a microwave bowl cozy. I don't have one here right now, but I use my microwave bowl cozy all the time. Um, I reheated some Chinese food the other day and using it so you don't burn your hands. And the other thing you can do with it is heating up soup. So you put the bowl inside the cozy, stick it in the microwave, and then the little handles you can pull it out so you don't burn your hands. And it's
Or,
also nice for when you want a big bowl of ice cream, so you're not touching the cold bowl and your ice
yes,
cream's. One thing I've noticed about using the cozy is your item that you're reheating stays warmer longer.
I believe that. Well, and for people like me, my boyfriend makes fun of me because I've got the most sensitive fingers ever. And it doesn't matter what I even for lunch, I heated up a bowl of pasta. And sure enough, I'm like gripping the tiniest little edge and pulling pasta away because if I touch that bowl anywhere else, I'm burning myself.
Steam burn is the worst. But then the some of the things that I have for back to college is a letter sweater. Um,
What's a
it's a long sleeve sweater, and it has their initial crocheted
oh,
into the front.
oh,
Um, I have a pocket shawl where it's a shawl that has pockets in it, and that's perfect for studying because it's colder than some of those dorm rooms or some of those
oh yeah.
college
I
apartments. They don't, and so you have
one
a
one
shawl
of
to put on.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I know I had one of my classes was in the basement of the dormitories and it was always freezing. Like we used to actually wear our slippers to class because it was so cold.
Slippers and
So that,
socks.
yeah,
I
that's a
do I
great
do have a
idea.
pattern for crocheted slippers, but it's they're I have a pair, but they're too warm. I mean, I could
Well,
almost wear them outside.
I was gonna say, as a Canadian, you're speaking my language because when it's -40 outside, let me tell you, there is no too warm slipper.
My feet are always cold. Um, let's see, what else do I have? I have the bowl cozies, and I have a set of dishcloths and a set of um not oven mitts, but pot holders that
You
can
know,
also work as trivets.
yeah, and I just wanted to also say with the bowl holder, speaking of ice cream, I'm a person generally I don't need to heat up my food. My boyfriend thinks I'm absolutely insane. I'll just pull leftovers out of the fridge, plop them in a dish, and off I go. But because it's really hot right now, and I can't remember, this might have happened all the time. Halfway through your meal, you have condensation on the bottom of your dish. So half the time I'm sitting there wiping off all the water on my hand, coming back and eating. So you could just have this bowl cozy to sop up, like if you have ice cream, sop up all the condensation so you're not dripping all over the house.
Or leaving a mark on your table.
Oh my goodness, especially with the kiddos. That is an excellent point. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
use
so
one.
many.
Um, Trying to think what else I have for the kids. I think that was my end of my list, but those things are very well received. And they're also great gifts for like if you're a realtor and you need a thank you gift or a home warming gift, order them or make some for your customers. A realtor needs to relax once in a while,
Yeah.
learn how to crochet, and
Yes.
she can make a gift for her customer that's
Oh, yeah.
just bought a house. Um, I have a gift set that has a what I call a market bag. It's a crocheted bag that's real stretchy. So I have the market bag, a set of oven mitts, a set of pot holders, a set of dishcloths, and microwave bowl cozy and a scrubby. And
Yes.
that's a great gift for a realtor to give to as a housewarming.
I,
Or it could be somebody that's going to a bridal shower to give.
yep.
They think of all the pots and pans and the electric this and electric that for the bride, but she doesn't have the basics that she needs for her kitchen
Or,
essentials.
and that's it. And unfortunately, especially when people, get married or move out for the first time, go to college, what do? We go to Walmart and we buy some cheap crap because we don't know any better. And then it ends very badly. And then we have to buy
Yes,
more cheap crap.
right.
Oh, I love,
Yes,
okay.
yeah,
This is,
that does happen.
ugh, yeah, been there, done that. Yeah.
And then I'll show you this one. This is cute. This was a mug rug for
A
teachers' gifts.
teacher. Yes. And you know
Yes,
what?
little apples.
I was just thinking too, I love that. And having had a ton of teacher clients in my past, I think that would be super well received. I saw you could probably also make like mug cozies. Like,
Yes, I
yeah,
do have mug cozies, and what I have a bunch of them getting ready to go to a craft fair, and I've embellished them with an antique button on the side. Also, I have little buttons that have coffee cups painted on them. I bought a package of 100 of them and sold them on some of the coffee cozies, and those are really cute. And then at Christmas time, I have red and white coffee cozies that have little Santa buttons sewn onto them.
oh, I
So
love
those
it.
are cute.
You know what? And sorry, I am just off on a tangent in my mind right now. I was just thinking, so I had built my boyfriend a wooden advent calendar because now this is just us. Don't judge me too harshly, but we really like wine and craft beers. I love a good like ale or like a nice porter or things like that, especially for Christmas because they're nice and chocolatey and coffee and Anyway, so from Costco, we would always get the beer advent calendar or the wine one. So I built a wooden box for this so I could just buy my own and stuff it. And I had bought off Etsy little markers for the days so I could switch them up every year instead of like painting the doors.
Mhm.
I could crochet little door markers for that. Speaking of that, you could do lots of
You
Christmas.
can crochet numbers too.
And that also gets me thinking too, for all the ladies that love wine, how many people out there I don't know why we do this. We buy all these little things that we lose all the time. The little wine holders, you put the little clip around the stem so you know it's your glass. You could make your own. This is so
Yeah,
neat.
a set of 6, yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So now that I've just gone off on tangents of all the wonderful places I could take this, I'm going to say in a year when I actually get my abilities under control. But wow, that opens up a lot of possibilities. Like that is really, really neat.
There are all kinds of possibilities that you can crochet. Um,
Yeah.
from really simple things like hot pads and dishcloths and scrubbies to very elaborate things. I just recently finished making a rooster for a lady. Um, she her daughter or her sister, I can't remember what it is, has a daycare that she runs out of her
Oh,
farm
nice.
home. And she has about 10 students in the program. And I made her all kinds of farm critters. And the last one I made her was a rooster. Oh my God, that was the the designer. The top of the rooster was very good, but when she came to making the legs, there's no way those legs would have supported the rooster.
Uh,
So I had to do a plan B. Um, she had wires that you'd have to crochet into the legs to make it stand up, but it wouldn't hold up the weight of the rooster. He was big.
oh.
He was really huge. And
So
then,
again, we're back to
the other
check your
thing you have
pattern.
to watch when you're looking at patterns is a lot of things are really cute, but they're AI generated and there's no pattern available.
Isn't that interesting?
But I just found one I really liked and I thought, oh, this would be perfect for what's her name for her farm. And I saw a chicken that was really colorful and beautiful. And then somebody made a comment, it's AI generated, there's no pattern. And if you look at it closely, you can tell that it's AI generated because the stitching doesn't go the right direction.
Isn't it funny? Okay, so yep, just be aware, people.
Yes,
Okay,
be
so
aware. That, like I said, you got to be careful of make sure that it's a known designer, and that the pattern has been tested. A lot of designers will start with a pattern and they'll put it out for 5 or 6 people to test the pattern to make sure that what she's written is the way it's going to work. And then she makes sure that it's correct.
oh,
But
okay.
sometimes in the typing of it, it doesn't quite come out right, and you might wind up where she says it's supposed to be 7. Excuse me, allergy time.
Okay.
Where it
Yep,
says it's
I hear
supposed to be
that.
76 stitches across, and the way you add up the stitches in the row, there's no way it's going to be 76 stitches. It's going to be 92 or it's going to be 55. It just doesn't work out. So you have to make sure that you get it from a known designer that has tested the pattern.
Yes. Well, I will say, uh, this I don't want to scare people. It sounds complex, but I will just say to the regard of for people watching this, and I think even just to make our own dishcloths and maybe some Afghans and gifts for other people, I think it is an amazing, relaxing, beneficial hobby to have for sure. And we should all do it. But I will say, after talking to you for the second time now and learning so much again, for people, and I am someone who loves all the free things I can get, the free master classes, the free webinars, learning things off YouTube. If I can get it for free, I will do that. Don't know where I get it from. I'm not a cheapskate because I love tipping well and I love being generous to the community, but for some reason, I still love free stuff. But from everything I've learned from you, I will say to people watching, learn off YouTube, possibly to your peril. I feel like there's too much information to not have a human to ask questions to and get the proper, hey, is this boop, 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 right?
Yes. When I look at something on YouTube, I sometimes have to stop it midway and go back because what they said doesn't make sense, or I need to catch up with what they're doing. And then you go back and forth and back and forth, and then you just say, to heck with it.
Well,
And
and that's it. So there's a point where even like I had once explained to me why people pay for cleaners when you can clean your own house, right? You're not buying someone to clean to do something you can do. You're buying your time back. So I will say this is the perfect example of save yourself hours wasted on YouTube, buy your time back, and just get the experienced professional who's not going to let you waste your time.
yeah, no, like for the first hour, we will go through pattern selection, yarn selection, um, how to hold the hook, um, how to start a skein of yarn. Now, these skeins of yarn, you pull the yarn from the center of the skein, as opposed to unwrapping it from the outside, which is going to wind up with a horrible tangle. Um, And then what I do is when I put this away, because I might want to use this for something else, I wrap the crochet around the base of the yarn around the base. And then I have a little tiny clip that I put on here so that this doesn't fall off where I'm going to go store it. Although sometimes if I don't have a lot of yarn left, I might roll it into a ball. However, remember I said yarn has a memory. And if you're
Yes,
going to go somewhere and you're going to see a box of yarn that's rolled into balls,
because
don't
it's already been.
they've wound it so tight that it's like a golf ball and your yarn is ruined. And the other thing that I've seen them do is they might have two or three skeins of partially left over, and they'll roll it into one ball, and you're thinking you get a ball of this color, and you get to the center of the ball and it's purple, and you can't finish what you've done. So I would not, if I'm out shopping around, and I love going to rummage sales. If I'm out shopping around, I want to make sure it's a full skein of yarn as opposed to a rolled up ball of yarn. And you can tell whether a ball of yarn is too tight. You got to squeeze it. If it's soft, it might be okay, but you got to be careful what might be in the center. Um, but if it's hard, if the ball is hard as a rock, don't do it.
Don't. You know, and
The
that
yarn is ruined.
yeah, that's a very, very good point. Because again, not knowing, never having shopped for yarn before, I wouldn't really know. And I would trust that the person selling it would know better, which, as we
They
know,
don't.
there's a
They
lot
don't,
of,
or they didn't know because they bought it from someplace.
yes,
It's I lost my train of thought here. I'm sorry.
it's all good.
Um,
I will ask you, if you don't mind, do you mind saying your price, or do you just want people to,
oh, the first hour of somebody that doesn't know anything about crocheting is $25.
and that's US, correct?
US, yes.
Okay.
And we do it on Zoom or on Facebook Messenger, or what is this one? Microsoft?
Google Meets.
Google Meet. Yeah. I mean, I can
Oh,
use several different platforms. Um, I do sometimes will do person to person, like they come to my house or I go to their house, but I'm really a homebody, so I try not to get out too much. Today, going to the grocery store to pick up my prescriptions was a struggle in the heat.
you know what? I hear that. We're just coming out of our 40 days of heat. I'm currently in Mexico. And yeah, like you open the door and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And I don't know. We were supposed to have a storm here, a terrible storm here, and it didn't happen. But he
I
must have
was
heard something because he was
shaking.
trembling and shaking over here. But now he's quiet underneath the chair again.
Well, that's good
So
at least.
yeah, it
And
is good.
yeah, I will say too, I love the Zoom aspect of it anyways, because I feel like if I am going to crochet and I'm going to learn things, I'm putting on, well, being the middle of summer and hot, my sweatpants shorts, I'm getting comfortable. Like I'm going to get all in my comfy clothes and grab my yarn. Like, so yeah, I feel like it's just a nicer atmosphere to get in that because when I'm going to do my hobby is going to be, 7, 8 o'clock at night in front of the TV. And
Turn on the TV and watch The Bachelorette and and
that's
crochet.
exactly how my glass of wine maybe. And then when it does calm down the heat, you got your blanket pulled up like you're cozy. It's a cozy hobby.
I have
Yeah.
on my bathrobe or
And
although during the day I'll go if I've been up walking around a lot, I'll take a break and go sit down and do a couple rows or whatever I'm working on or go look for I love looking for patterns. I don't
that's
always I don't always put them in my repertoire because I never know, but at least it's in my mind and I know where I saw it and can go back and get it if I want to purchase it. And I
that's
have
the
a lot
best.
of stuff saved in different places
See,
on my
people
computer that I can buy a pattern when I need it.
people can come to you just to find out where to go for good patterns.
Hmm.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
the first hour will just cover a lot of the real basics. And then after that, we'll get started on whatever project they want. And that again is $25 for the first hour. And they can come if we've got a good head start on their project and they find I don't understand what this line says, they can come back to me at no charge and we can work out what that thing meant, what
Oh, that's wonderful.
that
So
real
I
meant.
know you had told what I needed before. I did write it down somewhere here that it is in one of the piles in one of my books. Oh, right here. To get started, I think people obviously they can just book an appointment and start with you whenever they want. It's a free world. You do what you like. But I do know you had told me to buy an H hook,
That's right.
and I will always buy 100% cotton because if you can use it for everything, don't mess with it if it's not broken. And yeah, go buy 100% cotton yarn. And that's basically what you need to get started, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, and you and I talked about brands of cotton yarn because you're
Yes.
in Canada and I'm in the United States.
So it was,
Do you have Hobby Lobbies up there?
we have Michael's is our most prevalent one.
Michael's.
Yeah.
The Michael's store here, and if you go to their online and look for something, even in what I told you about, they're out of stock on everything.
Really?
I mean, I went to look for Karen something in Karen Simply Soft in a specific color that I was looking for, and the whole section was out of stock
Oh,
online.
isn't that
But that's not
interesting?
this not the same with Joann's or Hirschner's. I don't know if you get Hirschner's up there.
Not to my knowledge, but I've never looked for yarn before.
Hirschner's is in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and they're a
Okay.
big outlet for yarn. Big. But Michael's, I don't know if they had some financial problems a couple of years ago and closed up a lot of stores, and they've just never been the same since with yarn. I think they might be trying to get rid of that craft items. I don't know what they're doing, but every time I try to go there to their website, I can never find what I want. So it's frustrating. But anyways, you go to the source, you go to a good source for your yarn.
Okay. That is good to know. So maybe a bit of Googling in your local area. Where can you find some good yarn?
Yeah, I mean the United States is. I mean I know about just about all the places in the United States, but and I know a few of the places that are in in the UK and in Canada, but shipping is outrageous.
Yes, we did. Yeah, shipping for some things has become a little
I made
things.
a little flying pig for when pigs fly. I made her a flying pig for a Valentine's present for her boyfriend. And I
Nice.
charged her $35 to make it. She's in Canada. It cost us $20 to ship it to her. She said she had to have it and she didn't mind paying it, but she couldn't find somebody in Canada to make it for her.
Isn't that
I tried to
funny?
find somebody too, and I couldn't find anybody in my resources.
Well, I will say for the most part, so I'm from any of my Alberta friends out there watching this, I'm from just north of Edmonton in a small place. Cardiff was where I lived, but Mourneville's the town. And all the ladies, like I do have to catch myself sometimes because I'm going to learn to crochet and I am not a grandma, but I will always say there's a grandma in your neighborhood that you can get these dishcloths from.
I've been crocheting for over 65 years. My
Yep.
grandmother taught me how to crochet before I was even a teenager.
Oh,
She
isn't
tried to
that-
teach me how to knit.
Yeah, I think
I wound up with a triangle.
yes, I feel most of us did that. I did the scarf also, the triangle scarf, and I gave up after that.
When my sister was in college, she took she has her degree in related arts, and I always ask her, what does related to arts mean? She says, how the hell should I know? But anyways, she learned pattern design and all kinds of things, and one of her projects was to make a sweater. And she said the sweater fit the body, but she couldn't get her head over the neck part. It was, yeah, so she wound up giving it to Goodwill. She said it had to be somebody with a very, very tiny head, pencil head.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's funny.
So she never learned how to knit or crochet, but she learned how to design patterns and sew. And she even taught tailoring at one of the local stores down here in Milwaukee for a couple of years.
That's really nice. Yeah. I mean, that's a very needed skill.
Yes, it is. How to tailor a suit coat so that it fits you properly and it doesn't come in the pattern size and it doesn't fit you in the waist and you need to let it out or take it in. It's
Yep.
She learned how to do.
Oh,
She
my
always
goodness.
looks so elegant in whatever she wears.
Because she knows how to make it fit herself.
Yeah, true. Well,
Oh, geez.
we are at an hour, right?
Yes, we
Did I
sure
answer
are.
all your questions?
I think so. There was a lot of information. I think it's great. We got exactly what you do, how you're going to help people, your price point, what we start with. I feel like we covered a lot of information. So I just want to really clarify and tell the viewers. I mean, to each their own if they want to try YouTubing it for sure. But I feel like this is one thing like you just skip the wasted time. And I'm gonna have your link in the comments in the description for this episode, so people can find you there and they can click
On
on that.
Facebook, yeah.
Yep. And I guess because you answered all my questions that I can think of, is there anything else you would like people to know?
I'm all set. I hope people contact me and I'll be willing to help them out. And they have to make sure they have to make sure where they found us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I just think it's so useful to have a hobby. And even let's say you end up just hobby crafting an Afghan a year. Well, it's either a Christmas present or you can just make a couple $100. Like, right? It's just, yeah, I feel like there's no downside to this.
When when I first got started with Kopan's crochet, I decided to make a Green Bay Packer Afghan with the big G in the center.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out to be sofa sized.
Nice.
And I had it so that it had flannel on the back. And it took me from the preseason games through the playoffs to make it.
Oh, geez. There you go.
Afghans are not something that's going to take you a day to make.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I did know that myself. What little I did know, I knew that. But yeah, for the viewers watching, if you want something quick and easy, let's do the dishcloth.
Right.
But
Take you about an hour and a half to make a dishcloth.
okay. Oh, that's even better to know. You just whip that bad boy out like nothing. Fantastic. All right, it has been so lovely. I want to thank you so much for joining me and doing this.
Thank you.
And I really, truly hope like everyone calls you, because I think this is, like I said, it's a great hobby that suits all of my clients and would be great for you also. So, yeah, hopefully we can have win-wins on both of our sides. My clients get some focus and relaxation, and you get to spread the crocheting
Okay.
word.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank
Talk
you
to you
so
later.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.